all of the longer standing crypto all had face ripping rallies, which was good for them. Then we had the AI ones, and it's been very sporadic, as you say. But overall, the whole space is moving higher, but it just is all happening in sporadic periods, and then it pauses, and it's been pausing for a bit now. Like Solana's done nothing for a while, and then you look back, and it's done another 50%, and it's an interesting market. Normally, what happens at this phase is we should rally into year end pretty strongly in everything. But then the real game gets played in first quarter.
Crypto is primed for a major surge in the first quarter of next year, says Raoul, CEO of Real Vision. Despite sporadic activity, coins like Solana continue to show strong gains, signaling the market's resilience. If trends repeat, the coming months could see significant growth. Stay tuned for Pal's insights, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more finance updates.
And if you go back to 2020, it was not until like November that ETH started really performing. It was all Bitcoin dominance. And Bitcoin dominance topped almost at the right moment. Bitcoin took off. Now we haven't got to, I think my next phraseology is going to be the banana singularity. That's when everything goes bananas. But what we're seeing is this is a tricky market like this, because what you're getting is a whack-a-mole, which is never the thing that you're owning.
It's a bull market for everybody but me.
It's what your friend owns, not what you own. And then you get like a week in the sun where everything goes up and then it goes off again. So we're not at the banana zone singularity point yet. That will come as well. That's probably, sometime Feb, March, when it all gets silly. We did see the first signs of it, all of the, as they were called, Dino coins, all of the longer standing crypto all had face ripping rallies, which was good for them. Then we had the AI ones, and it's been very sporadic, as you say. But overall, the whole space is moving higher, but it just is all happening in sporadic periods, and then it pauses, and it's been pausing for a bit now. Like Solana's done nothing for a while, and then you look back, and it's done another 50%, and it's an interesting market. Normally, what happens at this phase is we should rally into year end pretty strongly in everything. But then the real game gets played in first quarter. Look, there's always something to worry about. But generally speaking, let's look at the last Trump administration. So from September to the end of the year, the dollar rallied. September, the end of the year, rates went up. Same narrative. It was all about tariffs and, what's he going to do and how's it going to play out? Almost exactly as the year turned, the dollar went lower and rates went lower. So I've been producing a chart showing that global liquidity tightened and it has a 10-week lead time. And that should mean that at the end of the year, we get a correction. Now, that would not be surprising. Let's say Bitcoin gets to 120, it corrects back down to 100. I mean, that's just normal course of business. But Twitter being Twitter is losing its mind over this correction. I get messages, is this the one? I'm like, calm down. You should be expecting at least another 4 or 5 of these over the course of the next year. They're just regular, but for some reason that people are losing their minds. But once that's out of the way, usually it should be good. Now, liquidity needs to come back, so we need to see the dollar weaken. We need to see rates come down somewhat. Those are key things for us. I don't see any reason why not. And then there's a bunch of technical stuff like the draining of the Treasury General account over the period for the budget negotiations and stuff like that. And normally that's a big injection of liquidity. And the Fed are doing other rinky-dink stuff, like they're going to cut interest rates on the reverse repo, which basically is trying to force money out of money market funds and into the private sector. They've got to roll the debt, and they can't at high levels because it just means the compounding of debt. And if Elon is serious about trying to get the payments down, well, debt's the biggest one. It's now bigger than the military. So they've got to do that. The other side of the equation is we all know China's in trouble right now. Its economy's a mess. Bond yields keep falling. And really why China's in a problem is it can't stimulate without losing its currency. And it doesn't want to do that. So what it needs desperately is the US to inject liquidity so it too can inject liquidity. It needs a weaker dollar. Everybody needs a weaker dollar. Now, last time Trump got in, one of the first things he said is, we want a weaker dollar. if you think about what they want to do, they want to export US goods. They want a weaker dollar. They just want a weaker dollar. They want the weaker dollar. The stronger dollar is something nobody wants, but let's say it happens. Well, what is Scott Bessent likely to do? He's likely to inject more liquidity somehow, some way, because what they don't want is to, I mean, this administration above all others seems to be really focused on the midterms.
Which makes sense.
They've already raised a ton of money, and they're like, if we need to get anything done, we need 4 years. If not, it's a shit show. Can we have the Senate, the House, everybody for 4 years, then we can get stuff done? And that's, I think, what all of their sort of heavy level advisors are, is like, this is the important thing. So the last thing they want is to fuck up the economy in the meantime. Nobody wants that. They want a nice, strong economy without too much inflation, without, but they want a decent picture. So I think they're going to do anything they can to do that. This is not a normal election. This is not a Republican versus Democrat election. It was fought on that, but what it was a coup by the technologists. They won the entire government, whether it's JD Vance to Vivek to clearly Elon to David Sachs, who was in the background doing all of this, to Mark Andreessen, to Brian Armstrong. They orchestrated this. It is their coup. So what we put in is not an old Republican administration of the past. We've put in the technologists who said, we're going to run the show now. And Trump gets the smartest people in the world to do this for him, and he gets to walk away with a good legacy because he can't be voted in again. So this is why he's very compliant with all of these guys as well. I mean, so that is the biggest change I think we have seen in an election cycle for a very long time. It's the kind of complete collapse of the political system as we knew it. And on a more serious note, well, that's a serious note too, but on a serious note, the next election and the elections afterwards are not going to be fought over capital and labor. So all political systems are capital versus labor. And it's the balance of power between the two that defines politics. Where we're going, there ain't no labor.
Thailand's plan to make Phuket a Bitcoin payment hub marks a step toward mainstream crypto adoption. Proposed by former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra, the initiative aims to attract global tourists and boost Bitcoin's utility beyond a store of value. If successful, it could inspire similar policies and drive broader adoption worldwide. Now back to Raoul Pal's insights.
The crypto lobby, Brian Armstrong, raised more money than anybody else. Them A16Z. And Trump knew, I mean, there was I think, was it Mark Cuban who was saying this? I can't remember who it was, but it's like, are you insane? 51% of all males under the age of 30 own cryptocurrency. And you've been beating them with a stick. So what you've got is, in another 4 years' time, they're wealthier, older, and if you're enabling their wealth, they will not forget you. And so Trump has, I think, realized this, but also he had the unlimited money pot from this industry. And then, when you talking to friends of mine from the crypto industry, they said the real mover and shaker in the background was David Sachs, who is Elon, Peter Thiel's kind of puppet master. It's like that battle over capital, which is the crypto market, and the AI. Now, what's interesting here is they're all fighting for decentralization. That's not something you thought you'd see, but it's like decentralized money, and then it's been very clear because of Elon is they don't want to centralize the power of AI in closed source technologies. So suddenly Zuckerberg's back up on top because he's open sourced Llama. And it's hugely fascinating. Again, I think we will look back in several decades' time and say this was one of the most important elections that we've ever seen. I think they're also a pretty sensible bunch. So I think they will keep regulation in the right way. This reminds me somewhat of when I was young. Margaret Thatcher came into power. So she came into power before Reagan. She was the one with the big ideas. The UK had almost gone bankrupt, had to have a bailout from the IMF, where, at the turn of the decade, 1979, it was rioting in the streets, race riots, garbage was not being collected, the country was falling apart, there was no electricity because there was an oil strike, everything was happening. She comes into power, fights everybody, everybody hated her on the left, everybody on the right loved her, blah, blah, blah. But one of the things she did, which I think is a replay of what's happening now, we had a system of what were known as council houses in the UK, which were government housing. And after World War II, because so many people had lost their livelihoods and all of this stuff, there was this, for the less well off, there was this government housing. And it was a very low rent. And what Thatcher did was sell them to those people, to the people renting them, but at a stupidly undervalued price. And she turned millions of less well-off people from being Labour voters and net creditors to debtors and Conservative voters. She completely changed the nation for the next 12 years because of doing that. And this is the same kind of thing with crypto, right? Is if you enable all of these people, they will become free market capitalists. I think capital formation at the core is very important, and I think they understand it. But there has to be some guidelines around capital formation or everybody scams everybody.
Right.
And we've seen that, right? If you give them a pump.fun casino, they will scam each other until they all run out of money. So yes, I think we're going to completely overhaul capital formation. And that can be for traditional assets being tokenized. Don't forget, when you speak to people like BlackRock or Blackstone, even more importantly, they own all this real estate. What they want to do is they want to get individuals to invest in their funds to keep their big funds going. And so they want to tokenize. I heard Steve Schwartzman talking about this. I was at some event speaking, and he was, they all want to tokenize their assets. On the other side, tokens have been very profitable for VC funds, but also it's a good way to bootstrap a business as well. So yeah, I think crypto is going to go through some changes, but the big change is the finance system has nothing in its way for adopting the technology now. They're not scared of anybody. So we're going to see a lot of innovation being built in finance now. And don't forget, Goldman, JP Morgan, they've been working on this for a decade. Goldman's crypto team has been around since 2015, I think. So we're going to see that innovation. The other side is all of the brands, the cultural side of stuff, from football teams to pop stars to sporting to everything, entertainment industry, it's all coming. I think all of these are experimentation with what it's going to end up being. I've got a thesis on the music industry I've had a long time, where pop stars and stuff, they can have tokenized community. Taylor Swift is the example I give. Her economy is so big that the central banks in Australia, Singapore, the UK, and the US all mention the Taylor Swift effect on their economies, right? But she made like $1.4 billion in ticket sales. So therefore, her economy is a lot bigger than that. We're talking about, this is a multi-$100 billion economy is what it's worth. So can that be tokenized in certain ways? It's very hard in the music industry because, and you know this because you've been around that industry for a long time, is nobody owns their IP rights to anything. Everyone's got 78 different fingers in each pie. There's one thing that most people could get, and that's their album cover art. Spotify, because of streaming, you've lost all digital value. So how do you get digital value back? Well, an NFT is a pretty good digital value because it begins scarcity. So imagine if Taylor Swift had 100,000 kind of NFTs of the album cover art, and they come with rights to tickets at events or merch or earlier stuff. Right now, she suddenly got a revenue stream which had been gone to zero because of digitization, and she doesn't have to schlep her ass around the world dancing on stage, which is not an easy business. I mean, look at the Stones. They're still fucking touring and they're 80 because it's the only way to make money in the industry now.
Tokenization is driving a crypto revolution, with blockchain becoming the backbone of global finance. Giants like BlackRock and Blackstone are tokenizing assets to expand investment opportunities, while firms like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan have been developing crypto tech since 2015. As businesses embrace crypto, the financial world is set for a major transformation. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more.